Good evening. You are listening to the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88 and Fans Only Sports Network. I'm Adam Wright, CJ Medieros, Justin Hill with you here on this fine Tuesday night. We reached the end of our finals week. At least a couple of us. I've been done for a couple weeks, but I know you guys probably have a little bit left. So we're gonna get to DeAndre Hopkins. We're gonna get to Tyrann Mathieu signing with the Saints. We'll get to Deebo Samuel, an update on that, all that stuff. Let's start with DeAndre Hopkins. He was suspended 6 weeks in the season for this 2022 season. So this is gonna be an interesting one. So the timing is just seems too perfect for the deal that they made with the Ravens for Marquise Brown. So they dealt for a wide receiver one, and it seemed like they were just racking up receivers. It felt like they were just trying to make Kyler Murray happy. And then this suspicion comes out. Suspension. So it's either this is a massive coincidence, or they saw this coming and they said, okay, let's armor up and let's get a new guy for Kyler Murray. But what are you guys' thoughts on DeAndre Hopkins being suspended the first 6 games of the season?
Well, when I look at this, Adam, this could be a very crucial 6 weeks that he's gone. He's easily a top 5 receiver, and he's like a really big part of that Cardinals offense. But look at their division. The NFC West is going to be super competitive. I mean, you have the Super Bowl champion Rams that are as dangerous as ever, loading up on big names this offseason. And on top of that, the Niners are coming back, and maybe they have Deebo Samuel, maybe they don't. But either way, they're still going to be a darn good team. So if these 6 weeks, if you fall behind, you could almost write off getting the 1 seed. But I'd be a little more pessimistic if they didn't have Hollywood Brown. My personal theory is that they knew it was going to happen, but somehow the news was delayed. But right now, that trade's looking pretty darn good, if I do say so myself.
I was very shocked, Adam and CJ, of DeAndre Hopkins taking, for example, PEDs of what they're saying, and now suspended for 6 games. I always say this, and one should know what you're taking regarding anything medical when you're an athlete, because that can wind up to haunt you when you take that physical. And if you look at this situation, I sort of think that he said he was shocked of the report, and he was shocked of the positive test. Like, first of all, like, do you know what you're even taking? Like, it could have been anything. But at the same exact time, what you said, CJ, the Cardinals, they're going to be losing their top receiver and one of the top 5 receivers in the league. And was it obstacle that they went out for Hollywood Brown in the draft? Absolutely, because if you look at this situation, probably the NFL said, hey, we're going to give it a week. We're gonna suspend him in a couple days right after the draft, and what you guys want to do. So I think it's good that I'm guessing. I'm not a mystic, but I'm guessing that the NFL warned them, saying that, hey, we're gonna suspend your receiver for this much games. And hey, he took the punishment. He know what he did. You move on and you get right back to it in week 7.
It is interesting that you bring that up, that he was shocked that he got suspended. And I got to say, I notice it a lot when wide receivers or any player gets suspended. They say, wow, how did this happen? I don't know how these wound up in my system. I got to fight this. This is terrible. That's BS. Come on. I could understand if it happened once in a blue moon, but the fact that all these players come out and they say, how did this happen? I'm not sure. I'm just as confused as you guys. Come on. You knew. But the reason I don't hold DeAndre Hopkins that accountable for it is because you see stuff like this all the time. People are coming out trying to call when Julian Edelman got suspended for PEDs, a lot of people were coming out trying to call the Patriots cheaters, saying that, oh my God, here's another reason why the Patriots are cheaters. This happens all the time. Why are we like, I don't like when we single out one player for something that everybody else does. It's like the steroid era in baseball. Everyone was doing it. And some were doing it more than others, but it was a thing that was like a massive trend back then. Kind of like how steroids are a big thing, and they continue to be because the league really doesn't hold you accountable enough for it. And the 6-game suspension is much better than 4, but when they suspend you for 4 games, it's almost like, and bear with me now, does it almost feel like it's almost encouraged when they give you a 4-game suspension? They're giving you extra rest on the season, and you come back, you're rejuvenated, and you're ready to play again. It's not like they're suspending you for like 2 full years. They're giving you 4 games off. And I look back to Julian Edelman with his suspension. He came back and he had one of his best years. He took a little bit of time to get to shake the rust off because he was coming off an ACL tear too. But again, he also had extra time to be able to heal from that ACL tear and come back to his normal self. So I don't want to look at this and say like the NFL, because they're still suspending him, but it's like a slap on the wrist at this point. Doesn't it almost kind of feel like they're encouraging it? Like they're saying, well, we want our players to be safe, so just do whatever you need to do to condition yourself during the off season, and then come back and hopefully you're at full strength.
Yeah, Adam, I totally get it. And I mean, if it was a 4-game suspension, I would say it's a slap on the wrist. But I feel like for first-time offenders, it should be 6 games. That's just where I stand on it. And, you have the quote from DeAndre Hopkins: "I am very mindful of what I put in my body, and I've always taken a holistic approach, so in order for my team to investigate how this could have happened." Like, really, you know what she did. I mean, unless he didn't. But also, I want to point out with Edelman, wasn't that like his ADD meds or something like that he took that the league said no to?
But I'm not sure what it was, but Jay Hill, you have something to say?
It's so funny how, like what you said, Adam. It's so funny how, like, you have these athletes, they get their physical condition like outside of football, whatever, during the off season, and probably in the practice facilities during, the I almost said winter meetings, but like spring training camp. And like, I look at these players and I'm saying to myself, like, do you know what you're taking and what you're putting inside your body? Like, what are you doing? Like, didn't your mother ever teach you to read something before you even do? Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, I'm not trying to sound like a circus act, but at the same exact time, DeAndre Hopkins, he's done so much for the community, done so much for the game of football, but to see a guy like him go down the wrong path like that is very shocking. But at the same time, he's not like, for example, he's not. I forget his name at the moment. I think you know him. He was on the Patriots. Josh Gordon. He's not like a Josh Gordon type player. Takes PEDs, suspended all the time, and then rehab and all the other type of stuff. He's not that type of player. But at the same exact time,
420 enthusiast.
But the same exact time, you should know what you're taking, and this is a learning experiment. We've seen the great players get suspended and whatnot, but not like PEDs. But at the same time, you learn from your mistake and move back.
Absolutely, it's an interesting thing with what's going on with that, and I wonder if they almost, because DeAndre Hopkins had such an injury riddled season this past year, and now that you're replacing that wide receiver one with Marquise Brown, who is best buds with Kyler Murray, if they could, their offense would almost run smoother, because Kyler Murray and Marquise Brown had a very, very solid rapport. I'm not trying to say that Marquise Brown is better than DeAndre Hopkins. That'd be a silly thing to say, and maybe Marquise Brown develops into that guy later on. But if you look at it through a chemistry level, they could do some things next year.
Yeah, definitely. And plus, once Hopkins gets back, you figure that's when things would really click.
Yeah, exactly. They would have to get on the same page again, like I said. And it would take some time for them to shake the rust off. But I mean, obviously, the best case scenario is if DeAndre Hopkins didn't miss any time and didn't suspiciously somehow wind up with steroids in his system, and he's well, I'm going to launch an investigation and get to the bottom of this. What did I take with steroids? Come on, man. I just find that really funny that every single time that happens, it's like, I don't know how this happened. And it's like, it becomes like the boy who cried wolf. It's like every single time it's, how did this happen? And it's like, come on, dude. Like, come on. You know really think how do you not know?
You know what, Adam? To quote Tobey Maguire from Spider-Man 3, how'd that get in there?
Exactly. All right. So Tyrann Mathieu has signed with a new team. Finally, one of the top free agents on the market going into this offseason, getting there post-draft. We're going to talk about his new team next. You're listening to the Fumblerooski podcast.
Way down the field to Watkins. Sammy Watkins for the touchdown.
You are listening to the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88 and Fans Only Sports Network. I'm Adam Wright, CJ Medeiros, Justin Hill with you tonight. And so, as I mentioned when I was previewing this segment, Tyrann Mathieu has finally found himself a new team after we found out early on in the season that the Chiefs weren't going to be bringing him back, that they traded for him, right? Or did they sign him? Justin Reed. They did something.
Signed him.
It was something like that.
Yeah, they signed him.
But regardless, Tyrann Mathieu, we found out early that he was not going to be returning with his new team. So it's been a little while for him getting back. He's been meeting with other teams, but he hasn't found a new home until now, which is the New Orleans Saints. So this is an interesting one because the New Orleans Saints have been kind of a fringe playoff team last year, and they had a very good shot at it until their starting quarterback, Jameis Winston, got hurt. He's on pace to come back. So this is a big signing for them. Tyrann Mathieu to add to that defense. So do you guys think this gets them over the hump and gets them into the playoffs? What do you guys think of this fit with the New Orleans Saints for Tyrann Mathieu and the Saints?
Personally, Adam, I like the fit. I really do. You know, you have the LSU guy, the Louisiana boy, returning back to Louisiana to play in the Big Easy for the Saints. And like you mentioned, you know, you have Jameis Winston coming back, who was looking really good, you know, before his unfortunate ACL tear. And you got Michael Thomas coming back, Alvin Kamara's there. And if you look who they got in the first round, you got help with the receivers in Olave. And in the defense, you know, you locked up Marshawn Lattimore. But now you have Tyrann Mathieu. I think it's been a good offseason for New Orleans. Well, you know, with the exception of losing their left tackle. But that's neither here nor there. But the way I see it is, will it make the Saints better? Absolutely it will. But does it – this is going to make me sound like a jerk, but does it really matter? They're not barring a slew of injuries, they're not going to beat Tampa Bay for that division. I'm sorry, they're just not. No way. Like I said, unless, of course, Tampa becomes like last year's Baltimore Ravens and half their team's on IR. But I feel like a wild card round is in their sights. I'm not going to hail them Super Bowl contenders, but I feel like Tyrann Mathieu adds a very good, versatile piece for their defense.
This is a great move for the New Orleans Saints. The New Orleans Saints have proven to me that whatever obstacle they're going through with quarterback situations or salary cap or whatever, they always find a way to rebalance themselves. And that is the signing here. Not only they have Tyrann Mathieu, but they have defensive players such as Cameron Jordan and Marshawn Lattimore on the squad. This is a great fit for Tyrann Mathieu. I know that you said just a couple of seconds ago, CJ, that he's from Louisiana. He played for LSU and all, but I think this is a great, comfortable fit than it was in that. I'm guessing that with the Chiefs, I understand with the Chiefs, he won a championship, but at the exact same time, it wasn't like a good fit for him for the last couple of years because, like, you know, they lost the Super Bowl and they lost in the AFC Championship game. But I think this team here, they'll definitely be a wild card contender team. And to look into the ways that I think Tyrann Mathieu could put a championship mindset into the players in the locker room, since the Saints haven't been to the Super Bowl since 2009. So I think this is a great fit for him and his family. Let's see what the outcome is to come.
So this was definitely a big signing for them, and not to agree with every one of you, but I mean, there's no way around it. Very good player, one of the better. He is probably the number one safety in this free agency class. The only thing is, this was definitely they were desperate for a safety after Malcolm Jenkins retired, and they also lost Janoris Jenkins to free agency. So they really haven't had. They got Marcus May, but I mean, it's Tyrann Mathieu. I mean, this is their big fish that they landed. Now, does this make them a contender in the conference? Absolutely not. If they were to trade for a Tyreek Hill or a Devontae Adams, maybe, and then we could start talking about that. But the thing with safety, and I feel like I'm being a little unfair to the safety position. It's just if you add one of the premier safeties in the league to any team, you're not going to do much. But if you add, let's say, one of the top wide receivers or one of the top quarterbacks or one of the top corner backs, then that's going to be a big difference maker. But safeties, they're just not to say that they're not important, but they're not as important a position as many others that would really put you over the top. And Tyrann Mathieu is going to be a big difference maker for his position, and he might get them to the playoffs. But to say that they're going to get over the hump and get past Tom Brady and those Tampa Bay Bucks, absolutely not. But nonetheless, this is a great signing for them, and this could help them get into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, it could help them get into the playoffs, but how far are they going to go? I mean, chances are they're going to be a first-round exit. I mean, you look at all these other teams, how Arizona's probably going to make it. Rams are almost certainly going to make it. Same thing with the 49ers. Packers, I'm sure Aaron Rodgers will find a way. Maybe the Vikings turn the corner. NFC East, you got Philly, who's added some good pieces, and Dallas, always dangerous. So, this makes me sound like a jerk, and I won't deny it. But, does it really make a difference? It's kind of like you said. Even if you got the best safety of all time on your team, it's probably not going to make too much of a difference.
Yeah, but here in their defense, what I will say is it does. In the NFL, it is a little bit like making the tournament. Make the playoffs, gain some steam going in there, and there is a chance that you could win it all. The Philadelphia Eagles in 2017, they didn't barely squeak into the playoffs, but their starting quarterback, who was having an MVP caliber season, tore his ACL, and the guy who replaced him was able to give enough production, and they were able to win the whole damn thing. And I can also name two New York Giants teams of these past 20 years that I won't go into depth about that have made quite the impact. But if you look at it, it is a little bit about making the tournament. It's about making the postseason. And, I don't love your chances, but you have your chances. It's not like the NBA where if you make the playoffs, then and you barely squeak in, you're automatically going to be out. It's one of those leagues where the best team doesn't always win. So they do have a shot. And I'm not here to try and say that it's a good one. I'm not here to make my Super Bowl predictions. All I'm saying is this is good towards their playoff hopes, and playoff hopes always mean Super Bowl hopes. And it doesn't mean they're good Super Bowl hopes, but they have a shot.
You make a very strong case, Adam, and I've said this in recent podcasts and to people as well. The New Orleans Saints, they have choked so many times that they could have maybe won the Super Bowl maybe 2 times in the 2010s. Right or wrong? I'm asking you guys right here.
Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, I feel like they probably would have beat Philly if not for the Minneapolis Miracle. And I don't know what happens with New England in the Super Bowl, but I don't know. But they probably could have at least had one.
And like right now with New Orleans, they went from spending so much money for the last couple of years to now downgrading to like in the salary cap at this point. I know you and I, Adam, we've had disagreements with salary caps, but it's
we're really going to talk about this again.
No. But I was trying to.
I don't believe in the salary cap. It's up to the owners. It's up to the owners.
It really
until Tyreek Hill gets traded.
Let's stay on topic though. Where are you going?
But regarding with this situation, it's great to see like what the Saints they're trying to like be a competitive team at the same time but not be over the cap. And like with this move, let's see what this move is gonna do. Let's see if this move here is gonna put a big impact into the Saints defensive season. We know that in their division they have the Buccaneers, they have the Panthers, they have all these great teams but at the exact same time. But can the Saints rise above all the hype and get back into like playoffs? I could definitely see that, but time will tell. Time will tell.
Time will tell. Certainly. And time will certainly tell for when Deebo is going to be traded, whenever that's going to happen. We're going to talk about that next. Don't go anywhere. This is the Fumblerooski podcast.
Way down the field to Watkins. Sammy Watkins for the touchdown.
You are listening to the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88 Dean Radio and Fans Only Sports Network. I'm Adam Wright, CJ Medeiros, Justin Hill. We're here on a Tuesday, and we're talking about a little bit of football. We're going to get into some post-draft stuff, even though we had a whole big thing recapping the first round. That was an interesting episode, wasn't that, CJ, last Friday?
Oh, yeah. I had a lot of fun. There were laughs, but mostly crying.
You know what didn't happen during the draft was Deebo Samuel being traded, which was something that a lot of people expected and just didn't happen. And that doesn't mean they didn't get any offers. And there are reports continuously coming out that they did get offers, and they were quite large. So Deebo Samuel has not been traded. Why hasn't he been traded? And why didn't the Niners accept that one deal where the Jets offered the number 10 overall pick? And we could also talk, which pick was it that the Lions also offered for Deebo Samuel? I think it was one of it couldn't have been their number 2 pick, right? And if it was, then they're really stupid for turning that down.
Mm-hmm. I actually think it was the 32.
Was it 32?
Mm-hmm.
He's still worth it. That's you. If you take that, if you are offered that deal, then take it. But what do you guys think? Why hasn't Deebo Samuel been traded? Is he going to get traded?
Well, Well, you know why he hasn't been traded? Because the Niners organization is about as stubborn as a mule and just as smart. See, here's the thing. I'm going to speak a few truths. You all sitting at home may not like it, but these are the facts. Deebo Samuel is not worth a first-round pick. But it's like, oh, but look at last season, yeah? Look at his previous 2 seasons, where at best he's been a quality receiver too. And it was only as they started using him as a gadget player where he became truly elite. He's basically a gadget player. And his first 2 seasons of the NFL have been marred by injury. He's injury prone, and the one season he stays healthy is his one really, really good, his one Pro Bowl caliber season. So are you willing to pony up multiple first-round picks or one really high first-round pick for one good season? No, you shouldn't. And if you are the caliber of armchair GM, which is somebody who thinks they know better than real GMs, if you're the caliber of armchair GM who looks at Deebo Samuel and says, yeah, that's worth 2 first-round picks, then I hope you never see a front office. But the Niners are literally getting overpaid. Are literally willing to turn down overpays for Deebo Samuel. The Jets literally offered their 10th overall pick, an early 3rd rounder, and their early 4th, and I think a pick for next year for Deebo Samuel. And the Niners said, no, dude, that is a gross overpay. And you know me, I think he's probably worth a 2nd and a 4th, but because one good season does not justify a king's ransom for a player. But Niners, you have to trade him. And, you have their GM serving up a word salad of just, oh, yeah, we're going to iron it out. He has literally erased anything Niners related from your social media. I hope you know what you're doing. And if you do, you better do it fast.
If you look at the thing with Deebo Samuel, the NFL has turned into the NBA demanding things such as trades, free agency, and a lot of things. And myself as an NBA fan can say that right now. But with this situation here with Deebo Samuel, I'm really shocked that a lot of teams, they really went into the top 10 just to even trade for him. And I would not I get what you're coming from, CJ. Is Deebo is there a lot of main issues regarding injuries? Yes, but let's not forget Deebo Samuel put up a great playoff run. He went up against the Green Bay Packers. He went up against the Rams and almost won. He had a tremendous, great postseason. And from years prior, has he been injury prone? I think the only 2 great years he's had was when the Niners went to the Super Bowl against the Chiefs that year in 2019, and also in last year's playoffs. But at the exact same time, if you're the 49ers, you need to pay this man. The 49ers have not won a Super Bowl since the Steve Young era, if I'm not mistaken. And at the same time, you have probably the top 10 best wide receiver in the league. And I'm not going to say top 5, but I'm going to put him in the top 10. And at this rate going on here, you need to pay your wide receiver. How are you going to call one of your players a top 1 receiver on your team? You're not ever going to pay your top guy.
They're willing to pay him.
But just at the same time, it shouldn't be no wait. But what I'm trying to say is, do you think the New England Patriots will wait for Tom Brady? No, because Tom Brady was the New England Patriots franchise player. And that's for Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel is the 49ers franchise player for years to come. Yes, you have Joey Bosa. Yes, you have a lot of great
He's
players.
not even the best player on their team. What do you mean?
No, I'm not trying to sound delusional, but at the same time, you need to pay the man.
So, Jay Hill, the only issue is it's not money related. The 49ers have come out from the beginning and have said, we're willing to pay you whatever it takes. The issue that he has had is with the way he's been used. He doesn't want to be used as a gadget player anymore. He wants to be used as a traditional wide receiver. Yes. And me and CJ's argument against that is those 2 years in his career when he was being used as a traditional wide receiver, he was a borderline wide receiver too. And now looking at it, after coming off a career year in an expanded role, he finally put up numbers good enough to be looked at as one of the more elite offensive players in the league, and now he doesn't want to be used that way, and he wants to get paid. Do you see the issue with that?
Yeah, I definitely see the issue with that. I get where you're coming from. I know, what you just said, you CJ, you added that the 49ers have used him as a gadget player, and that's what, what you just said. But at the exact same time, players need to get paid. I know, like in the NFL, they more have like a voice now of what they want to demand and what they don't want. So let's see how this outcome comes. I definitely get where you two are coming from.
Look, I'd like to bring something to the court's attention here. In his rookie year, Deebo Samuel had 802 yards and 3 touchdowns. Not bad. Then in 2020, 391 receiving yards and 1 touchdown. Very bad. And now this year,
He was hurt
1,405 yards and 6 touchdowns. Yeah,
how many games was that in? Could you just in that 1 year where he had just over 300 yards? Because I believe he was hurt for a big portion of that year. I'm not sure how much.
He played in 7 games that year.
So that's being on pace for about around 700 yards. And he was also hurt in the games that he did play. So he was banged up, couldn't get in a rhythm. I'll give him the free pass on that, but still borderline wide receiver too.
Well, and if you look at and he's still 365 rushing yards and 8 rushing touchdowns, you're finding your rhythm that you are best as a gadget player, and you do not want to be that. That is quite literally self-sabotage. Furthermore, if he's such a game changer, let's take a gander at the playoffs, which the Niners won their game against the Packers, I might add, where Deebo Samuel had 10 carries for 39 yards, 3.9 yards a carry, and 3 catches for 44 yards. Niners didn't have an offensive touchdown that game. That is inexcusable. I'm just to call him this new game changer. I mean, maybe he is if you use him properly. But Deebo Samuel, I mean, he was a little better against the Rams, where he had 72 yards and a touchdown, but still.
Let me ask you this, CJ. Does Deebo Samuel help a team's offense?
If he's used correctly, which is as a gadget player. But he doesn't want to be a gadget player, which I said is actually honest to God self-sabotage. I don't want to do the thing that makes me great. That's like Tom Brady saying, I don't ever want to do play action or huck it downfield again. That's like Patrick Mahomes saying, oh, no more deep balls for me. Or Lamar Jackson saying, I want to be a pocket guy. It's just, that's all.
Yeah, at the end of the day, he just wants to win and be paid. We can all agree about that right there?
Yeah, it's what he wants, but does he deserve it?
He deserves to be paid. Just if he's going to be paid, he needs to be paid as the gadget player, not as the wide receiver. But could you, while I speak, while you have the stats out, CJ, could you pull up his stats from the postseason, his last postseason that Jay Hill referred to? I just want to see those. Just to see how he was under the spotlight, because that is a big indication on whether or not he deserves to be paid. Looking at this, he does need to be the problem with this is both are in the wrong. The 49ers want him are being too stubborn about this, and Deebo Samuel is being a little bit of a pain in the ass about it. And I always hate when players scrub their social media in the midst of contract talks or when they're trying to request a trade. Why can't you just go behind closed doors and say, I want to be traded like a professional?
Adam,
what's up?
Deebo Samuel receiving yards in 3 games in the year 2021. He had 14 targets, 10 catches, 154 yards, but 1 touchdown. And on top of that, he had
what are the splits for those games?
What?
What are the splits? So what were his stats during wild card weekend, then divisional round?
I don't have that I don't have that in front of me, but what I can tell you is that he had 33 receiving yards against the Packers and 72 against the Rams. So so little under half of all of his yards came in 1 game. And on top of that, he only scored 1 touchdown. Furthermore, he had 137 rushing yards across 3 games and 1 touchdown. So, was he decent? Yeah, he was. But as a gadget player, which I cannot stress enough, is something that he doesn't want to be. But even still, as a receiver, he wasn't even that good in the playoffs. 1 touchdown on the ground and 1 in the air? No, that is not top 5 wide receiver money worthy. I'm sorry.
And then when you scrub those rushing yards that he wants to be taken out of, then that basically cuts his value in half. From all those rushing yards he got in that touchdown, that was one of his 2 touchdowns. So he's cutting his touchdowns in half, 2-1, and he's cutting his scrimmage yards in half. So that's a problem. So the fact that he's talking, oh, I've done all, like, have you seen? I'm forgetting the player who tweeted about it. I think it was and he was spelling his name wrong. It's Deebo, 2 E's, and he was saying D like 1 E. And he said, like, my boy Deebo is doing all this for the team and he just wants to get paid. Well, the problem is when he does all that, that's the only time when he actually makes an impact. And the fact that he wants to be paid to do less, like, what the hell?
Let me ask you.
What do you pay as an employer? Would you pay your employees to sit on the couch and do nothing? Would you do that? I wouldn't.
No.
You got to put your players in the best position to succeed. That's the problem.
Let me ask you this quick question. How do you guys seen it? Odell Beckham Jr. trying to, like, spoil the beans of where he wants to land and all. Because in my opinion, I think that's just ridiculous. In my opinion, with Odell, you need to focus on rehab and then focus on someone else. You get what I'm saying?
I think he's screwing with everybody.
Like,
yeah, I do too.
He's screwing with them, and I also think that Deebo doesn't like it. He's saying, please stop stirring the pot. It's just going to make things worse.
And it's cause more confusion as it can be. Like, it's just ridiculous. And, like, as me, knowing Giant fan, loving Odell and hating him, like, just let the man be. Let Deebo Samuel be. Let him get what he wants. Just don't be that person to spoil something.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we all saw the tweet. He's like, oh my God, Deebo Samuel to the Patriots confirmed. Like, Odell, why are you doing that? Even still, I'm sure the Pats want him, but he's going to want more than he's worth, and we don't roll like that.
He also seems a little bit like a diva, and I don't.
Oh, yeah,
he's starting to take on that ego mentality of wide receivers, and I'm not, and I know for a fact that Bill doesn't like that.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, do we want that in our Patriot way mentality?
Exactly. God forbid we trade for him, that halfway through the season, anything Patriots related is off his social media. That's not a risk you want to take.
I'll say this, though. I'm an Antonio Brown fan, but you took Antonio Brown. Let's never forget about that.
I agree.
Yeah, but we weren't paying him an arm and a leg.
No, let's not forget about that, though.
Yeah, and let's not forget we weren't giving him like a bajillion dollars to whine and bitch on social media.
I'm telling. Then I don't. It's not like I sit there and defend that move. That was a very stupid move by the Patriots. It was a desperation move to give them some pieces on offense, because I guarantee you they probably looked at N'Keal Harry during training camp and they said, this kid can't play. We need Josh Gordon and we need Antonio Brown. But that's completely getting off topic. I just want to touch real quick before we move on about the offers that he's gotten and the teams that he's gotten the offers from. The Detroit Lions offering it was the number 32 pick, and they probably, and these teams who are desperately trying to get him would have paid him. And so it's stupid that the Niners are turning these offers down, because the fact that they're getting first round offers is a miracle to me. And eventually, as time goes by, his value is going to go down, because they're going to realize, wait, he is on a contract year. Let's just wait until he's a free agent, and then we'll go get him, and we don't have to give up an arm and a leg. You know what I'm saying? And his value is just going to keep on going down. And the fact that the Jets offered the number 10 overall pick, you could have replaced Deebo Samuel with a real wide receiver 1 in Garrett Wilson, and you get younger at the position, and you extend to another 4 years. Actually, no, 5, because there would be a 5th-year option, unlike Deebo Samuel. And you take away the pettiness of Deebo Samuel. Now, I can't speak for Garrett Wilson's attitude, but he at least is going to be a humble rookie the new guy for a few years, until if he is a diva, then he'll turn into that. But that was a very good opportunity that they just messed up.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But coming up, we're going on to the fan box and talk about what you guys thought of this draft. We've talked plenty about our thoughts of this draft. We want to hear yours. We want to hear your favorite picks. We're going to get to that next. This is the Fumblerooski podcast.
Here's Edelman broken up, and the pass is no sign yet. Edelman comes down with a football. They're saying it's a catch. This is caught. Diggs! Stunned! Touchdown! Unbelievable! Swings it way down the field to Watkins. Sammy Watkins for the touchdown!
You were listening to the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88 and Fans Only Sports Network. I'm Adam Wright, CJ Medeiros, Justin Hill with you, and we have reached towards the end of our show, and that means we are on to the Fumblerooski fan box. So what that is we post a question filter on our Instagram every Monday, and you can respond with hot takes, questions, and more, and we will discuss it and give you a shout out on our podcast. Respond to next week's fan box question to be featured on our show. Now, the question of the week on our fan box was, what was your favorite draft pick for your team? So I figured that this was going to be a good one, and it did not disappoint. I'm pretty sure this was the most responses that we've gotten since during the season. Whenever I would post like every quarter of the season, I would post who your pick for MVP is. And you can imagine when you ask that question, who you think the MVP is, you're going to get a lot of answers. And that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get different answers. Everybody wants to share their opinion for MVP. It's Tom Brady, and you can't tell me otherwise. It's Aaron Rodgers, and it's not even close. You're stupid if you don't think it's Kyler Murray. It's the same thing with this question. It was great. So we got CJ, who said his Patriots drafted Tyquan Thornton. So we liked this one. I'm not sure if I like it. I'm a little – it seems like they're just drafting him off athleticism, and it seems like he was also a reach.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, I've been hearing reports that there were some other teams lurking behind him, lurking behind the Pats, and he probably wouldn't have fallen to the third because a lot of teams were willing to reach on him. And see, here's the thing. Is it really that bad? What are the biggest knocks on New England? They're too slow. They're not an explosive team. Well, here you go. Someone fast and explosive. Good job. But it's like, but my only concern is Bill's mentality regarding rookies. He likes to bury them on the depth chart and say, all right, work up. But no. If you're drafting like the first 3-4 rounds, there's got to be like some kind of privilege, no? That you get. And I mean, I'm just saying, I don't want another Aaron Dobson or Josh Boyce or N'Keal Harry. Well, N'Keal Harry just kind of sucked. But see, here's the thing. It's not that we draft busts. We draft players with potential, and they never get a chance. Aaron Dobson never got a fair shot. And there are other guys that we draft who are like Jordan Richards that just never get a fair shot, either because they're hurt or because we bury them on the depth chart. I want to see Tyquan Thornton play, and we got to play him soon because he's got game-wrecking speed, and he can take the top off the defense.
Maybe. Or he'll just turn out to be another big-time bust, which I've lost confidence in Bill Belichick as an analyst or of draft prospects, particularly with wide receiver. But you never know. They could always every dog has his day. And Bill Belichick, the DM, the GM, is going to have his day at some point. Hopefully that's this guy, and and it would be nice if it could be every prospect in this draft, because I'm not loving this draft class as a Pats fan. But Diego Huertas is also sticking with the Patriots draft class and going with Bailey Zappe.
Yep.
And
don't worry, be Zappy.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring that up, how you have that little thing that you don't worry, be Zappy, little slogan. If he works his way up the depth chart and he becomes like the next Tom Brady, like let's say Mac Jones gets hurt, Bailey Zappi comes in and he just becomes like the next elite guy. Don't worry, be Zappi, better be the slogan.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. And you better trademark that like now, if that's going to happen, because then you'll get a lot of money for it.
Wasn't even something I came up with, but all right.
You didn't?
No, it was on the Patriots Instagram post, because they show highlights of players that said, "Don't worry, be Zappy." I'm like, that's pretty neat. I'm not claiming, no Patriots organization, I am not claiming that I came up with that. I didn't do it. I didn't say I did. I'm just saying, I just think it's neat.
They didn't trademark it.
Well,
they could have, but
he could have.
Bailey Zappi, that's an interesting one.
Better than
and
Jarrett
I wouldn't
Stidham
say
already.
It's my favorite because you had a 4th round pick and you went and you already got a quarterback last year in the top half of the 1st round of the draft. But I mean, he did have over 60 touchdowns last year. So that could say something about whether or not this kid could play, but he's still going to be a backup. So like, what the hell is that? Jack Robb said Danny Gray to the 49ers. So this isn't the first time that Jack Robb has responded to our fan box talking about Danny Gray. I'm pretty sure he's done it once or twice before then.
I remember.
And yeah. And he's a Danny Gray fan. And in his defense, the fact that he's gone to the 49ers and now it looks like there's a good chance Deebo Samuel is on his way out, as we were talking about in the previous segment. He could get a lot of reps. He's going to get his opportunities. Now, I'm forgetting the other guy's name on that roster, the other wide receiver they took in the 1st round.
Ayuk.
Brandon Ayuk still exists, but he has been kind of in the doghouse. There's something that the 49ers see in him that they don't like, and I don't like it. Now, whenever Brandon Ayuk gets his opportunities, it works out. But like they're just not giving it to him, and it's weird. It's really weird. I don't know. There's something they see in him that I don't. And it does. It does. I don't have a good feeling about it. But Danny Gray, he was among the top prospects, bottom half of the top prospects. But I will give Jack credit because he did say the last time he said he's Danny Gray's a sleeper pick. So it's not like he's saying he's like this great wide receiver. He's just saying, well, this guy could pan out, and he could, and he's in a good position. I like the 49ers as an organization. But Tyson Tate said Vikings getting Andrew Booth in round 2. So this is a little bit of a trigger for me and possibly CJ because we wanted Andrew Booth in a Patriots uniform in red, white, and blue. That did not happen. And now he's a Viking. And it's a good fit for the Vikings. They needed help in the secondary, and I think they got 2 pieces in that secondary, didn't they? They got a couple players.
Yeah, they got him. I think Louis Cine, I want to say.
Yeah, so they did what they needed to do. They knew what they needed, and they went out and they got it. Imagine if the Patriots did that. Just imagine. And don't talk to me about the guard position. You can that's such a good guards grow on trees. Come on.
Apparently, I'm hearing that even if they stayed at 21, they still would have gone O-line.
Sure,
So.
that's what he's obvious. We talked about this on the Friday episode. They would have done that. Of course he's going to say that. That's his guy. He picked that guy in the first round.
No. I'm not saying they still would have picked Strange. I'm still saying in the 1st round they were going to go O-line, Strange or not. If Zion Johnson fell to us, he probably would have picked Zion Johnson. If Kenyon Green fell to us, he probably would have picked Kenyon Green. It's not something I agree with, but they're saying they still would have gone O-line.
Right. I think he was talking about Cole Strange, though, not specifically anybody else.
We'll never know.
But Brian Mucker said Sauce. Like I said, I've been saying this for a little while now. That was a slam dunk pick. The only way that you mess up the number 4 overall pick is by not drafting Sauce Gardner. Unless
Cole Strange.
That's another, but that's a guy who's not named Sauce Gardner. So that's what I'm saying. If you drafted anybody else besides Sauce Gardner as at number 4 for the Jets, it would have been a massive failure. And
What
even
if Stingley was there and they took him? Would that be a failure or no?
that's only if Ahmad Gardner had already been taken. Then you could say, okay, that's something that they can't control. But and Derek Stingley is a great cornerback prospect. The only knock on him is that he's been hurt. But Sauce Gardner, slam dunk, grand slam home run, and they had 2 other first-round picks in this draft that they just knocked out of the park. Great draft for the New York Jets. Can't wait for next year when they ruin other guys' careers. But all jokes aside, has a very good chance of working out, and the Jets could wind up being good for a couple of years, especially with the young core that they already had before this draft. But Patrick Williver, he said, excuse me for the pronunciation, Damoni Clark, exciting for next year.
I thought it was Damon, but I could be wrong.
It could be Damon. So what I read about him is that he was one of the top prospects for linebackers in this draft. Then he had, a hernia thing?
Uh-huh.
And he's not projected to be back for a long time. And he plummeted on draft boards. The Cowboys picked him up. The thing with that is that it's obviously a long-term investment. And let's say it pans out, then you have a guy who can go alongside Micah Parsons, who's already one of the best linebackers in the game, and you have yourselves a defense. And that's a core that you can put together for years to come, especially with that offense that they have that they haven't been really able to mix with defense. So the next pick was, and did I mention that was Patrick Williver who said that?
Yeah, you did.
All right, just had to make sure. Got to give you credit, Patrick. But Stephen Parker said Cam Taylor Britt. So Stephen Parker is a Bengals fan, and he said Cam Taylor Britt because the Bengals really badly need help in the secondary. So I'm not too familiar with Cam Taylor Britt as a cornerback, but what do you think about him, CJ?
He's sneakily underrated. I feel like, he's from Nebraska, so, even though it's a D1 school, no one's like, oh, my God, we got this guy from Nebraska. But I feel like Cam Taylor Britt would be like a late first-round pick if he went somewhere like Alabama or LSU. That guy, he's sneakily underrated, and I would say he's definitely going to be an upgrade over Eli Apple. So you got that working for you.
Certainly. And who was the guy? They got Braxton Hill, didn't they?
Oh, you mean Daxton Hill?
Yeah, Daxton Hill, excuse me.
Oh, yeah, he's a good chess piece. You can move all around the field. You can move him corners, safety. Yeah, that guy's a beast.
Yeah, so you have good Cincinnati has good pieces moving forward. They had needs at the secondary, and they've addressed that. I respect that. Nick Normand, he said probably Calvin Austin III, tremendous slot player that we sniped just before the Ravens. So if you haven't figured it out yet, Nick Normand is a Steelers fan, and it is interesting. And I said this when I was responding to his fan box. Isn't it just crazy how deep these rivalries go with these players, with these teams in the AFC North? Like, name a rivalry that goes as hard as anybody in the AFC North. It's just like there's players killing each other, like Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown got his stuff got rocked that one time, and he hasn't been the same, and he could have CTE. Like, it's just getting out of hand. It's just, wow, what a division.
Oh yeah, they hate each other, all right. So yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, you're lucky Tuck's not on the show, because he would have some not so family friendly words.
About what?
About, it's like because you took him right before the Ravens, and he'd be like, "Oh, we should have taken George Pickens." I'm a Ravens fan.
Yeah, well, they did need a wide receiver, and they didn't get Calvin Austin III. And when it comes to wide receiver prospects, I have my full confidence. Unlike another guy who works GM in New England in developing wide receivers, they're like a wide receiver developing factory, man. And there's another conversation to be had about how most of those wide receivers all turn out to be divas. Outside of
Mike
Emmanuel,
Tomlin. He's too much of a player's coach.
It could be that, but the talent that these wide receivers possess is unreal, and it just goes back for years. And I'm going to try and name them out real quick. Antonio Brown for starters. Emmanuel Sanders started his career there. Mike Wallace was good for a little while until it turned out he was a one-trick pony. You can look at Chase Claypool. You can look at Deontay Johnson. You can look at Juju Smith-Schuster. It's just the list goes on.
Martavis Bryant, if you so chose.
Yeah, I forgot him. Martavis Bryant. They're really good at drafting wide receivers, and I think this is going to work out. This is going to work out for them. It's a good pick for them. Not that they need wide receivers because they're pretty set there, and they lost Juju Smith-Schuster, but they have Chase Claypool, who has some growing up to do, and they have Deontay Johnson, who is a very good wide receiver. He's probably my favorite out of that group. He's the least. He has the least sucky attitude, is what I would say.
That's
out of that group, and we'll see if George Austin excuse me, Calvin. Have I been saying George?
No, this is the first time you said George, I think.
Excuse me, Calvin Austin III. Hopefully, he doesn't have an attitude problem like most of the wide receivers they've ever drafted.
I know is, sorry, Adam, I don't want to jump in on you. All I'm going to say is George Pickens, who they also drafted the Steelers.
That's a possibility.
Yeah, I was going to say, please keep in mind one of the biggest knocks on him was his attitude. So, the Steelers.
There we go.
Methinks the Steelers have an infatuation with divas, but that's neither here nor there.
They only look at talent. They only look at talent. That's it, and you can tell.
Yeah. And look at how many rings Antonio Brown has. One, not with them.
Yeah, and he hardly even played that much of a role for them. Yeah. He did catch a touchdown in the Super Bowl, but yeah. I will die on this hill. That and we have to get through these. We have to get through these responses quick because we are going pretty long on time. But I will die on this hill. Chris Godwin and Mike Evans were the top receivers on that team, not Antonio Brown. And Antonio Brown was only brought in for his talent. Well, obviously he was, but they would have won that Super Bowl without Antonio Brown. I will die on that hill. So going on to our next, it was Pat Cognetta, and he said Sauce as well. We've discussed this about Sauce Gardner, but Sauce Gardner, great pick. He's as much as a sure thing as it can possibly get. That's what I'll say. It is one of the most sure things in this draft. I think he's going to work out. And if I'm wrong, then I will quit as a co-host. And that better not actually happen because I actually like it on this show. But Sam, and this is a new responder, Sam LaPierre. And let me know if I have your pronunciation correct. You said Nakobe Dean at 83. That is a pretty good value pick for them for the Philadelphia Eagles. Another one that I'm a little salty about as a Patriots fan because I wanted Nakobe Dean if it weren't for Devin Lloyd being off the board. Now that we're hearing reports about Devin Lloyd that he had an attitude problem, I'm thinking maybe we dodged a bullet, but still not Cole Strange, please. All right, you can draft Cole Strange. Just don't draft him. Don't draft him in the first round when he was projected to be a second or third rounder. Come on. Yeah. And still, I'm done. I'm done with it. Ethan D said Marcus Jones because I mocked him a million times. I'm right there with you, brother. I'm right there with you. Cyrus Jones, Adam, Part 2. What's up?
I think when he says mocked, he means he was mocking Marcus Jones to New England. Oh, and to be fair, I also have as well. Also, sure. You keep Cyrus Jones out of the same breath as Marcus Jones, all right?
You keep Cyrus Jones out your mouth. I'm sorry. When you read their scouting reports, it's just scare. It's it's comical how identical it is. A slightly undersized, game-changing return skills. And also having fumble issues. Could you name a certain corner with the last name of Jones in the past few years who's had issues with that? Could you name him?
He also doesn't have Cyrus's injury problems, so
sure, but he also has massive fumble problems. So game changing. It is game changing. It is game changing. I'll give you that much.
Massive fumble problems. I wouldn't say massive.
He is game changing as a returner. I'll give him that much, just not in the way that you might.
All right, just wait. All right, Adam, just wait before you cast judgment.
I am casting judgment, and I do not feel bad about it. All right, we do have to end the show here. I'd ask for your thoughts. Actually, I'll ask because we're already running late anyways. What do you guys think? Any thoughts before we end the show?
I think you need to keep the Marcus Jones disrespect to Dull Roar.
Who's the other Jones that we drafted? I'll just pick on him.
No, then I won't tell you his name.
Jay Hill, what's his name?
Don't do it, Jay Hill.
On the Patriots?
You don't need to check. What, Jay Hill, any other thoughts before you end the show? Before we end the show here tonight?
No, just nothing. I know you guys talked a lot about the draft last week since I wasn't on, but like I'm really happy as a Giant fan with what we've got, like regarding defenders and O-line and like a couple of things regarding our defense and all. So I'm really happy that the team finally woke up. We finally declined Daniel Jones's option for his 5th year. So I think we're going through the right direction for years to come. We're not going to be a playoff team this year, maybe in a couple of years. So I'm really happy to see. And I'm also like I'm happy, but like it's good to see the Jets kindly do something as well. So I think those two teams in the NFL, including they did stuff good throughout the draft. So let's see what's the outcome to come.
Certainly. That was a pretty good draft for the Giants. I said it early in the night. I said the Giants are the early winners of this draft so far. Like they got 2 impact players. They did have two top 10 picks, so that certainly helps. But how they used them, they got not only one of the best defensive ends in the draft, they also got the best tackle prospect in the draft. So not only do you get help on that front 7 and a potential game-changing player in Kayvon Thibodeau, but you also have Evan Neal, and you have some protection for Daniel Jones, which you haven't had, which is kind of your fault if you are the Giants front office, because you knew this was an issue with Daniel Jones for the beginning, and you didn't bother to address it in how many off seasons now that you've had Daniel Jones?
The last three years, Adam.
Didn't address it at all, and they're like, damn, why is Daniel Jones getting sacked so much? Wow. Yeah. Why so many fumbles for Daniel Jones? You got a fumble problem, Daniel Jones?
This is also happening.
It's that Dave Gettleman mentality.
This is happening also in the Eli Manning era as well before we wrap up. But yeah.
Exactly. All right, guys. Well, that'll do it for us tonight. Thank you for listening to us. Be sure to tune into us live Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7:30 on Twitter and Facebook through Fans Only Sports Network. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We also have all our episodes available on Spotify, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and much more. Also, be sure to follow our Instagram at Fumblerooski_podcast to keep up with our podcast and the latest coverage on the NFL. Otherwise, we will see you next week. Over and out.